state pension is protected against inflation. There's lots of other flexible things you can do with your other income. I'm willing to take the risk that we probably will get the state pension, and if we don't, we'll suck it up. Is protected against inflation. So the triple lock.
Do that again. What did you say? Protected?
Hi, this is Retirement Dreams to Reality. I'm Keely, this is Bruce, and today we're going to talk about the state pension and how we factor that into our financial planning, or should we? When I did research into whether you should include the state pension into your financial planning or not, it was quite difficult to find someone that said you should include the state pension. But I found a company called Hartfield's Planning, and as part of their planning they always include the state pension in their customers' figures.
Okay.
So, and they sort of explained the reasons why they did that, and there were 3 reasons why they did that. So the first reason that Hartfield Planning stated was the state pension is protected against inflation. So they said because the state pension is protected against inflation, currently using the triple lock, that means you can be reassured of a certain amount of money every year.
So they don't think that'll ever change?
They didn't mention that on their document that talked about it.
Right.
It did say that there may be increased likelihood of reform.
Right, okay.
So they were aware that reform might happen.
Yeah, but they think it'll always be...
They sort of said, in your planning, assume it's going to rise with inflation.
Because currently we've got the triple lock.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which does include inflation.
Yeah.
But they were just saying that the only one they think you can guarantee on is inflation.
It'll always go up by inflation.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because the 3 things are wages, 2%, and
CPI.
And
Consumer Price Index.
Yeah, inflation. Have I said that already?
Oh, you've said inflation.
So inflation, wages, and 2%.
2.5, yeah.
Is it 2.5%?
Yeah.
That's the triple lock guarantee, isn't it?
Yeah. So the second one that they talked about was having a stable and known income helps with budgeting. So they're sort of saying that because it's a stable and it's known, you can use that for your basic essentials.
Because it's always been there.
Yeah, they're
that makes sense.
The point says that if you use that to pay your bills, ongoing expenses.
Right.
So they're saying that you need to factor it in so you can use that as like an underlying base.
So they're definitely assuming that it's always going to be there, aren't they?
Well, they are in this planning.
If they're talking about it, yeah.
And if you're paying a financial advisor and they're actually including it in it, you'd expect that it's probably going to be there.
Yeah.
And then the final thing that Hartsfield Planning talked about was it could free you up to use flexible options elsewhere.
Yeah.
So it's sort of a build on from number 2, really, that if you're using your state pension as a basis, then you could do things like flexible drawdown.
Yeah.
With your other pensions. So you could flexible drawdown, you could do a bigger lump sum and go on a lavish holiday because you've got the state pension underlying as a basis.
Yeah.
So that's what they talk about, that there's lots of other flexible things you can do with your other income if you use the state pension in your planning.
And I think that's quite rare, isn't it? Because like you said, you struggled to find... this was a financial advisor firm?
Yeah, it was a UK financial advisor firm.
And it's hard to find financial advisors that do include the state pension within their figures.
It can be really difficult, can't it?
Yeah.
We've watched that many YouTube videos where assume somebody wants £40,000 a year.
Yeah.
They're factoring in £40,000 a year from 55 to 95.
Yeah. But they don't use a state pension taking any of the load.
So they're saying they need to provide £40,000 a year from their investments or from wherever.
Yeah.
And I'm screaming at the screen, but you've got £15,000 state pension when you're 65.
Yeah.
So, and that's quite a chunk to ignore.
Yeah. So I think that's what leads on to the next thing, doesn't it? Because basically there's more information as to why not to include it, isn't there?
There's so much more information as to why not to include it. Everyone will have seen headlines. The most recent one, April 2024, state pension fund to run dry in 20 years. Will you get one?
Yeah.
That was Money Week.
Yeah.
That was actually a website aimed, it wasn't a newspaper just scaremongering, it was a website aimed at finances. The state pension is doomed to disappear.
Yeah.
That was the 5th of February 2024. The ticking demographic time bomb leaves us with a few good options to raise the retirement age significantly or slash the welfare bill.
Yeah.
So where are you going to take the money from? The Telegraph 2023, the state pension is doomed and so are your retirement dreams.
Yeah.
And the FT. The FT advisor, Financial Times advisor, bid farewell to the state pension.
So I think what we looked at was that there were certain key things, weren't they? So one of them was they were talking about it running dry or disappearing.
Yeah.
The reason that the media are talking about it being doomed is because the state pension is funded through national insurance contributions.
Right.
And they're basically saying that the current rate, the population is ageing.
Yeah.
So therefore the pull on the state pension is bigger and bigger as years and decades go on.
Yeah.
However, the population is falling. So there aren't as many big families like there used to be. There aren't as many young people coming in. So therefore, they're the ones that pretty much, I didn't know until recently. I always thought that the state pension was a big pot of money that's paid into, and then when you come to take your pension, they just take a bit out of that pot and they pay you from that pot. But actually, no, what's happening is everybody that's currently working is currently paying for the people on the pension, state pension.
Yeah, yeah.
So obviously the less people paying into it, and the more people drawing from it, it's not, the books aren't balancing.
It's really interesting you say that, because the Financial Times that says bid farewell to the state pension, the primary reason is that the National Insurance Fund is run like a current account rather than a savings account.
Yeah.
There's nothing permanently in it.
No.
The people who are paying into it now, so you're a working person, you're paying into it.
Yeah.
My mum's a retired person, she's taking out of it.
Yeah.
And it's literally that simple.
And the gap between people paying in and the people taking out is getting too big.
Yeah, we'll put up the graph that shows the difference in the working population and the difference in the ageing population from the Financial Times.
I think one of the biggest reasons to not want to use it in their figures, and I think from what we've seen on social media and from what we've seen from other financial advisors talk about it, is the fact that it's not a guarantee that it's going to be in the form it's in now in the next 10, 20 years. So that's why you might not want to include it. If
you're 62, you're probably quite likely to include it.
Yeah.
But if you're 40...
It's one of those, isn't it, you've got to think about. So, knowing all this information, we are going to include it.
We do include it.
Yeah, that's with all our figures.
We have to include it.
Yeah. So what Keely did was she found a really good YouTube video of a guy that used a program to be able to figure in your kind of final numbers. And normally you would have to use the financial advisor to get access to a particular piece of software called Voyant.
Yeah.
And that's quite expensive. So you can get it yourself, but it's really expensive. If you go to a financial advisor and you sign up with them, they have access to it and they'll go through all the number crunching with you, which is really useful. But Keely found this YouTube guy that basically made his own Excel spreadsheet and shared it. And then Keely was able to use our numbers and put that into there and get some kind of project what information from that. So what we'll do is in the description below, we'll link that video. So if you yourself want to save some money and have some sort of idea of what projections could be in the future, you can use that. But you're now going to go into a bit more detail.
Yeah, so I used this brilliantly detailed spreadsheet, Excel spreadsheet that mimics Voyant basically. And I ran all our numbers, and we'll put the 2 pages up on the screen. But the crux of it is the simple, the graphs are quite complicated. It shows the income that you require, it shows the investments that you have, and it shows 3 different rates that your investments may perform at, 1%, 4% and 7%. You can change that.
So what do they mean? What's the 1%, 4%?
So basically, if your investments only return 1% a year, these are your projections.
Right, okay.
If your investments return 4% a year, these are your projections. If your investments return 7% a year,
Yeah,
these are
which
your
is still
projections.
not too bad, is it? Because
Yeah, that was the
over
highest.
the long term, isn't the stock market return somewhere between 8 and 10%?
Yeah.
So 7's not too bad, and then worst 1% is a worst case scenario, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm not quite sure. I just stuck with his figures.
Yeah.
But if your investments are only returning you 1%, there's something's drastically going wrong.
Yeah, for a long period of time.
Yeah, and it's basically for the whole period of time.
Yeah.
On the graph.
Yeah.
And so the crux of it is, and you'll see on both of the graphs, that if I just lump both our results together, our worst case scenario is that one of us runs totally out of money at 70 years old. If we don't include the state pension, then one of us runs out of money at 70 years old and one of us runs out of money at 74 years old.
Yeah.
If we do include the state pension, then at the best case scenario of 7%, we both end our years with 1.8 million.
Yeah. So why does the state pension have such an impact?
Because you've got that, because that isn't going up or down by your 147%.
Yeah.
That's just going up every year by your 2% inflation.
Yeah.
Because you've got that as a solid from, according to your graph's projections, from 67 years old until you die.
But is it also because you're using that 12 or 13 or 14 or 15,000 pounds straight away? You're not taking money out of your stocks and shares.
Yeah.
So therefore that's still enabling your stocks and shares to compound.
To grow and grow and grow.
Right. So then that's why you keep so it does take out quite a heavy load.
Huge.
Yeah, but again, it will also this is only relevant for us.
Yeah.
This is not relevant for everybody else because it all depends on your number.
So have a look
it's
at
really
the graph.
it's useful to do that because it
It
gives
is
you some
useful to do
idea,
that.
but it does show you the impact of having the state pension and not having the state pension.
Yeah.
So knowing all this information and knowing that the impact it has, but based on the majority of the kind of everybody else is saying don't include it, why are we including it?
Why are we including it? Particularly because if it disappears, we've just looked and we could run out of money at 70 and 74.
Yeah.
So why are we including it?
See, because it's something that it's an unknown.
Well, I think we're willing to take the risk.
Yeah, definitely. I think risk's the big thing.
I think, once again, our investments are currently in high-risk portfolios.
Yeah.
That's just our personal taste.
Yeah.
And I'm willing to take the risk that we probably will get the state pension. And if we don't, we'll suck it up.
We say risk, we still feel like it's a
Calculated
risk. Like the stock market, we believe that that's going to keep doing what it's doing. It's going to keep making returns because what's the alternative? The alternative is that you just bury your head in the sand and you go, okay, then, well, we won't bother doing the stock market. We won't bother retiring early. We'll just basically keep working until we can't work anymore.
Yeah.
And you just...
So we're willing to enjoy our early retirement with the knowledge that there
could be some changes.
A small chance, we think, that the pension might change, but we'll enjoy life while we can.
Well, I personally believe there'll always be some sort of state pension.
Yeah.
So...
You may think we're foolhardy.
Yeah,
but it's a risk we're willing to take.
I can see it being a hard decision if you're now sitting in your 20s and 30s and thinking, right, do I figure in the state pension for my end of term when I retire? It's a difficult one.
Yeah, really difficult. And it's not all doom and gloom. The Institute for Fiscal Studies did a really in-depth pension review. I think it was in 2023 it was published. So it was a 2.5-year project. It's the Institute for Fiscal Studies. We will link the 33-page report below. But I've got to be honest, I did not read the 33-page report. There's an 11-page summary. And the 11-page summary is actually quite interesting reading. They had 4 guarantees, recommendations that they think any government should take going forward, and I think they were really positive. So the first one is they want to change from the triple lock to a pension that's linked to average earnings. One is you link it to the average earnings, and 2 is you link it to inflation. So the third point, which is the most important point I think for us, is they recommend that it's not means tested. I'm really pleased that they are recommending that they do not means test the pension. Let me just go for the final one. So they're saying that although the state pension age is going to increase, it will only rise as longevity of older age increases. So basically, what they're saying is if life expectancy increases by 3 years, then don't increase the state pension by 3 or 4 years. Keep it lower. So their recommendation is that you never go above the rise of life expectancy, you keep lower. And their other recommendation is that at the age of 50, everybody gets a letter that says what their expected pension age is.
Right.
So you get it at the age of 50, and they're also recommending the 10-year promise still stands.
Right.
So they won't change it within 10 years' notice. So that was the IFS recommendations. As I say, there's an 11-page report and a 33-page report. It makes interesting reading if you're interested in your pension. That was quite a lot of information about the state pension, wasn't it?
Yeah.
The crux of it is there'll always be arguments for including your state pension and not including your state pension. We've included it in ours.
Right.
Our figures, we wouldn't have been able to retire when we planned to retire if we didn't. Are you going to include it in yours? That's Retirement Dreams to Reality. Keely and Bruce, thanks for watching. Is protected against inflation. So the triple R.
Do that again. What did you say? Protected?
There's no way you need graph 1 and 2 because it's up on the screen.
Don't do it then.
So the graph that's up now, the first graph, shows that...
The first graph. You don't need graph 1, you don't need graph 2. But the graph that's on screen now, the first graph.
Graph 1, which is up now, shows quite clear... Why are you laughing?
It's alright, sorry, carry on.
So read number 1.
So there will be a government target level for the new state pension, expressed as the share of median full-time earnings. Increases in the state pension will be the long-run kept pace with growth in average earnings, which ensures that pensioners benefit when living standards rise. Discuss. Do you see? Do you see how boring that is?
Did you fall asleep while I was doing this? You weren't listening, were you?